We'll get started in just a minute or two, so sit tight and we'll get started in about 1 minute. Welcome, everyone. As we get started, we just want to draw your attention to some key dates we've placed here on this intro slide. You'll see that course registration takes place from August 16th to August 26th. So you'll register for courses by the course registration deadline of Thursday, August 26th, ahead of that first day of courses on Wednesday, September 1st. Welcome to today's webinar on course registration at Harvard. We are so delighted that you're joining us today and also that you're joining us this fall. In our 45 minutes or so together, we're going to review general logistics for the course registration process, as well as some helpful advising tools that you'll use along the way. As we go through this, please feel free to use that Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. You'll submit questions to us there, and we'll do our best to respond to them. So I'm Brooks Lamberts-Lutter. You can call me Brooks. I take he, him, his. My role is Assistant Director of Advising Programs at Harvard College. I'm coming to you from Somerville, Massachusetts, just down the road from Harvard Yard.
Hi, everyone. I'm Madhavi Strasburger. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I also serve as an Assistant Director for the Advising Programs Office, and I'm so delighted to join y'all for today's conversation.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Marley Masters. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm a rising junior at the college, concentrating in economics with a secondary in government. I'm an EaglePath, which is a peer advising fellow that works with the Advising Programs Office and first-year students. I'm from a very small town in Michigan, but I'm currently calling in from Dunster House, and I'm looking forward to answering some of your questions.
Hi, my name is Zoya Sarani, and my pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm a rising senior in Eliot House, concentrating in neuroscience on the MBB track with a secondary in education. Like Marley, I'm also an EaglePath, and I'm calling in from Cambridge, Massachusetts, right down the street from the Quad, but I'm originally from Corpus Christi, Texas, and I'm so excited to be here with y'all today.
We also have two great colleagues, Olivia Carpenter and Nam Kem, who will be answering questions in the Q&A. Today's webinar is all about registering for courses. So we're going to talk about several tools that will help you discover courses that fit your interests and your goals for your first year, and several important steps that you will take next month as you prepare to register for courses in time for the August 26th deadline, and then start those courses on the first day of classes on September 1st. In today's presentation, you'll learn about the process of choosing courses, as well as some resources that will help you make informed decisions. You'll learn how to leverage the wide array of advising tools that are available to you to help shape your fall schedule. And as questions come up, enter them in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, and Olivia and Nam will respond to them, and then we'll also save some time for live responses at the end of our presentation. So first, I'm going to situate our presentation on course registration in the context of the classes that will make up your Harvard education. Take a moment to look at this pie chart, which will be familiar to you if you saw our presentation last week. It will help you visualize the different components that make up your path to your degree. To graduate, you will take 32 courses. Typically, that's 4 in each of the 8 semesters. For most fields of study, you can expect to allocate about 1/3 of the classes you take to your concentration, that is the Harvard term for major, 1/3 to electives, and 1/3 to the Harvard College curriculum. While for certain concentrations, such as our engineering concentrations, the division of your pie might look a little different with more concentration requirements, all college students will fulfill the college curriculum in order to graduate. This means that you can keep in mind that your set of courses you choose in your first year are likely to be informed by both the college curriculum, that is expository writing, the language requirement, quantitative reasoning with data, general education, and the divisional distribution requirement, and courses that interest you. These might be electives like the first year only freshman seminar program, or they might be gateways into future fields of study. The Advising Programs Office website at advising.college.harvard.edu offers a couple of resources that might help you approach course selection in your first term. We have course decision trees about common first-year course decisions, which might point you in a useful direction to start. We also have information about all 50 concentrations so that you can use what you already know about your interests to find courses that might give you a foundation for possible study in a field. There's a lot of information coming your way, and there will be more. You're not alone in this. As you get started exploring this month, what you learn about classes and fields of study that you find interesting will help inform your conversations with your academic advisor and other members of your advising network. And you'll have an entire course registration period in August as well. Madhavi will now share more about what course registration and course preview period will be like.
Thanks, Brooks. Finding and enrolling in classes at the start of each academic term can be both exciting and challenging. Many factors enter into course choice, such as concentration requirements, workload, scheduling, as well as exploring new fields and questions. The course preview period provides you with the resources and events to find and select interesting courses, while also giving you the time before classes officially start to plan your schedules and meet with your academic advisor. The course preview period this fall takes place between August 23rd and August 26th before classes start. The preview period offers students a chance to explore course options, attend both synchronous and asynchronous course events, and enroll in classes. You can visit the guide at the following URL listed on the webpage, which is college.harvard.edu/guides/course-preview-period. And we encourage y'all to check that out. Course registration takes place in your My.Harvard account. You can log into this account, which is linked to your assigned Harvard key at my.harvard.edu. You'll use your My.Harvard account to search for courses, learn a bit of preliminary information about them, and ultimately register for the courses you choose to take. My.Harvard contains a course catalog where you can browse courses for relevant offerings each semester. You can search for courses by title or instructor if you know this information, or you can browse a little more broadly using filters that allow you to narrow results using criteria like particular academic divisions, departments, and even subject areas. We'll talk a little bit more about how to use the course catalog as an advising tool momentarily and how to choose courses. But for now, though, let's assume you've identified courses of interest and you'd like to talk to your advisor about registering for them on August 26th. You will then utilize the My.Harvard's Crimson Cart feature. Once you select a particular course, you'll add it to your Crimson Cart. Once the course appears in your Crimson Cart, your assigned advisor will be able to see that these courses are there. In order to register for these courses, your advisor will need to check your Crimson Cart and electronically sign off on it. This will lift the advising hold on your account, which you will see is present in your My.Harvard homepage. Once this hold is lifted, you will then return to your Crimson Cart in My.Harvard, and you'll use My.Harvard to register for the courses in your cart. To register, and again, this takes place on August 26th, you will need to remove courses that you do not ultimately plan to take. You will need to first verify your courses, clicking to select each one and using the Verify feature. If you need to obtain an instructor's permission to register, in order to register, My.Harvard will prompt you with the next steps in order to petition your instructor electronically. Please note that you can usually complete this verification process before the registration hold has been lifted. You can and should start that process early, and you can obtain instructor permission even for classes you don't end up taking. Once you have obtained all necessary permissions, or if no necessary permissions were required in the first place, you will see a green check mark next to the courses for which you are now ready to register. It is very important that you complete one final step in order to actually register. You will click on the courses that are ready in order to select them, and at last, you will click on register in the bottom right corner of the screen. You will then be officially registered for courses. Your seats in that course will be secure and you will be in compliance with the Harvard course registration deadline. Holds on your account may prevent registration. If this is the case, you should be able to see that there's a hold on your account on the main homepage. You can click on the hold to learn more about why it is there and what you need to do to take it off your account. All students will have an advising hold on their account before your advisor signs off on the Crimson Card, but this hold should disappear as soon as you obtain that electronic signature. You can see your advisor and your advisor's contact information in My.Harvard, which will be uploaded in mid-August by clicking on the Advising tab on the left side of the screen. Now that we've taken a moment to address the mechanics or general logistics of using My.Harvard to register for courses, we're now excited to discuss the advising tools that exist that will help you discern which classes you would like to take this fall. I'll now turn it to Marley to share what some of these tools are.
So in addition to being the place you'll register for your courses, My.Harvard is also an essential advising tool that can help you decide what courses to take. The My.Harvard course catalog is home to some of the most crucial preliminary information about any given course here at Harvard. So today I'm going to walk you through how to access and use My.Harvard as a course selection tool. So let's get started. So from your homepage, we're going to navigate to the Course Search tab. And what you're going to see right away is a Have You Considered tab. Here, some of the departments have recommended courses you take a look at. As a first-year student, I wanted a rather exploratory first semester. So if you are in the same boat, this Have You Considered tab could be a great place to start. But let's scroll down and search for some classes on our own. You're going to want to select Faculty of Arts and Sciences, and you'll find courses sorted either by discipline or requirement, general education, arts and humanities, social sciences, and so on. So this upcoming semester, I'd like to take a general education course, so let's start there. By the time you graduate, as Brooke said, you'll have to take a general education course in each of the following 4 categories. I need to fulfill the science and technology in society. So let's click that. And there's 26 search results. So this can be overwhelming, but My.Harvard lets us narrow it down. So first, let's filter the results by term. I'm not looking right now for spring classes, so let's restrict the search results to fall of 2021. And by doing that, we are going to cut our search results in half already. And on the toolbar here on the left, there are a bunch of different filters that you can use to narrow down your results. Under course level, for example, you can filter for courses that are appropriate for undergraduates. And you can also filter by location. So say I'm really interested in taking a class in Harvard's new Science and Engineering complex. And this brings me down to just one search result: How Music Works, Engineering the Acoustical World. So next I'm going to select this result, read a brief description, and decide if it's the right fit for me. The brief description often includes information such as the scope and philosophy of the course. What are the basic questions that it seeks to answer? Why is this an exciting and relevant topic of study? You'll also be able to click to learn more about crucial aspects of the course. Who are the instructors? What else do they teach? Does a given course count toward any other requirements? How many units of college credit will taking this course give me? Does this course have discussion sections that I need to factor in when building my schedule? And if you have more in-depth or personalized questions, you can use My.Harvard to access the instructor's contact information, and you can reach out to the instructor directly with more complex questions if necessary. So My.Harvard is really the best place to go to get some of your basic questions answered. From My.Harvard, you'll be able to access other course selection tools, the Q Guide, and the Syllabus Explorer, and Brooks and Zoya are going to talk you through those next.
Thanks, Marley. You may be feeling a bit overwhelmed by all the information in My.Harvard, and that's absolutely okay and very understandable. What we're doing now is giving you some of the tools that you can use to begin exploring the courses that you might take. Between now and course preview period, you'll have the chance to use these tools and to talk with your academic advisor and the rest of your advising network about your first term courses. As Marley shared, My.Harvard links out to other resources and also has detailed information about courses. So for instance, some courses are what's called limited enrollment. These mean that they cap enrollment at a certain number of students. The course information will note specific instructions about a lottery or a petition process, and you will use My.Harvard to submit a petition ahead of the lottery deadline. This might be for a small seminar or a studio art course, or for a larger lecture course, which the instructor wants to keep at a certain size. Whenever you have questions about an enrollment cap, or frankly, whenever you have questions about a course period, you should absolutely ask the instructor. One of the other tools linked from My.Harvard is what's referred to as the Q Guide, Harvard's internal course evaluation system. You'll see this for courses listed as evaluations and then the Q score report. And it's literally the letter Q. At the end of each semester, Harvard students are invited to fill out a survey called the Q about their experience of each course. These reports can be helpful for you to learn about students' perspectives from past iterations of a course, but you should keep in mind that experiences and perspectives will differ from student to student and that classes evolve and change over time. One person's experience of the course offered a year or two ago is surely quite different from someone else's experience with that same class a year or two later. And of course, in the last year or two in particular, a lot has changed. With that in mind, on the Q, you'll be able to see past students' responses to questions like, what would you like to tell future students about this class? Student evaluations of a past iteration of a course are one way to get a sense of the class, but perhaps the most important tool is the course syllabus, the set of mutual expectations under which a course operates. Instructors are creating their syllabi now for the fall term. So in mid-August, you'll be able to see the syllabi for those courses. In the meantime, you can use the Syllabus Explorer tool to look for syllabi from previous semesters, giving you yet another way to explore possible courses you might take this semester and areas of study you might pursue. Now, Zoya will walk us through that Syllabus Explorer tool.
Thank you, Brooks. So now that we know a little bit more about My.Harvard and what the Q Guide is, what we're going to be focusing on now is using the tool Brooks mentioned. So let's get started. So we should all be familiar with this page since Marley showed us how to get here exactly. The tool we'll be focusing on is called Syllabus Explorer. On the course details page, you can see a link to search for course syllabi. When we click on that, it takes us to Harvard Syllabus Explorer. The Syllabus Explorer has exactly what you might expect. It has the syllabi for all of the courses at all of the Harvard schools. You can filter it by term, you can filter it by school, or even department, or you can just leave it be and see what courses show up. For each class, you can see the syllabi that are available from various years, which, as Brooks mentioned, is super helpful, especially now, where last year was online, so it might have looked or been structured differently. The syllabus is extremely important to look over, not only in course registration, but also throughout the semester. The syllabus contains information about the course description, the course staff, expectations, and also important questions answered, like how does grading work? Are there exams? When are the exams? So the first thing I want to show you is why it's so important to look up the syllabus for the courses. So let's look up a common first year course, LPSA, which is one of the Intro to Science courses you can take. And we can click on its syllabus, which is right there. And we can go ahead and see all of the past years and go ahead and download whichever one we want to look at. So as we download it, we can open it up. And once it's open up, we can look to see what's in it. So we can see the course information all on the first page. We can see the professors, the prereqs. We can see the weekly schedule. We can also see answers that'll be answered in the syllabus, questions that'll be answered in the syllabus. We can see section preferences. We can see problem set instructions, lab assignment instructions. We can also see exam and date information. So this is 2020 and 2021's will be up later, but it's still a good way to see what the course will look like, what the course demands, and how that'll fit into your schedule so you know what to expect during course registration. So since we know a little bit more about the syllabus part of Syllabus Explorer, the next thing I want to show you is a bit more about the Explorer side of things. So one way to get to the Syllabus Explorer is through my.harvard. But another way is to go to syllabus.harvard.edu. When you open up the site, you'll see this screen, and you can type in any word and it'll show you relevant courses and syllabi. So let's try it. So I'm interested in science, and some of y'all are probably like, oh no, I don't want to take a science, but let's see what the results are. So the first result is actually a culture and belief class about gender and science. There's also a course at the Ed School, there's a course in the AFVS department. So the results are extremely diverse in different departments, in different schools, and they're all based on that first search term, science. So this tool is extremely underrated because most people only use it to search a specific course's syllabus and don't necessarily use it to explore. This tool is incredible because you can see the neatest assortment of courses based on any interest. And this helps you step out of the department or concentration you might have solely been looking for courses in. So to sum up Syllabus Explorer, you can use it to look at one class's syllabus, or you can use it to explore and find courses based on your interest. I hope that helps.
Thank you so much, Zoya and Marley. As we now transition to the Q&A portion, I wanted to conclude with a few final thoughts before we wrap up. You'll be assigned your first-year advisor in mid-August who will guide you through your course registration process. In the interim, our office will be providing a variety of programs throughout the summer, one of which includes our group advising sessions, which are scheduled on Thursday mornings, and we will be offering more sessions that are available for sign up through the Sign Up Genius. We will also be offering 2 more upcoming webinars that will address aspects such as your course placement exam scores and how to use that in terms of recommendations for fall classes. And then finally, a session about the advising network at Harvard. We'll now turn to spend the rest of our time responding to some of the questions that have come in.
So I hope this was helpful for you all, this presentation. I just posted in the chat for everybody the College Guide to the Course Preview Period, which we mentioned during our presentation, and we'll probably make reference to in this Q&A. But first, we saw a bunch of really wonderful questions, and clearly many of you have thought about your courses already. Others of you are beginning your exploration right now. Some of you this may be the very first step, and that wherever you are in this course exploration process is absolutely fine. Our goal today really is to give you those tools for however you're approaching this right now to give you a sense, if you want to begin exploration. You'll have plenty of time to do this down the road. But one of the questions that came up that we wanted to respond to, and then Zoya or Marley, I'll ask you to chime in a little bit on this as well, is this question of is our classes, how do you actually register for classes? Is there an aspect of speed to it? A number of you mentioned maybe you have friends at other colleges or universities who are, for whom course registration really is first come, first served. And you wake up early on your registration day to log in and register for classes. At Harvard, it's a little bit different than that for sure. There's not a blanket answer to the question of how every course manages their enrollments. As I mentioned about limited enrollment courses, some courses may do a lottery. It may quite literally be a random, they may say that there will be 20 students randomly chosen from all those who are interested, and they'll give you a clear sense of how you express interest. Typically that's done through my.harvard, but they may have they may ask students to write a short response to a question about why they're interested in the class as a way of kind of gauging students' interest. Others might wait, kind of give more preference to seniors for whom this would be the last opportunity to take a course. General education actually has a lottery that all the general education courses run a lottery at the same time, so that to give students their number one preference as much as possible in that case. But that's clearly laid out in the course description for every course that might have limited enrollment. As I said earlier, there may be classes that are seminar size, so say 10 or 12 students, and they really want to keep it discussion based. And then others, it's simply a limit of the instructor's choice. If they want maybe 75 students max in the course for their pedagogical aims, that will be very clearly described, and the process will be described typically in My.Harvard, but also on the course website if there's more detail needed. The main thing I would say is to look at the course website if you have questions, and often they will be answered there, but you can also find the contact information for folks who can answer those questions, the instructors. Zoya or Marley, have you had experience with limited enrollment courses or lotteries? Is there anything you might share?
I can say a little bit really quickly, but I would say that sometimes you'll see a course and either the instructions aren't super clear about the lottery process or the enrollment, or sometimes you look at a course and you don't really have the prerequisites, but you have like some other experience working with the course and you really want to take that course. So in those situations and other situations, it's always worth reaching out to the professor directly and emailing them to ask about more information about the enrollment process, but also expressing your interest about why you want to take that course. And sometimes after the first lottery is done, they'll have open slots. And sometimes the individuals that express interest are the ones that they'll ask to fill those remaining spots. So it never hurts to email a professor if you're really, really interested in a course.
So I'm going to also mention that the freshman seminar program has, I referred to it earlier, it's only first year students. And I honestly think that's one of the great advantages of the program is that it's a community of students who, just like you, are in your first semester. You may also take obviously a course in the spring, but in your fall term, these are other students who are beginning their undergraduate experience. And it's also a way to, in a space that is graded not for a letter grade, which reduces the pressure a little bit and allows you to explore some interests you may have that you may not feel right now ready to take a class that would be for a letter grade in. And that's one reason why we encourage students to apply for as many seminars as interest you. You can find on the freshman seminar website, just freshmanseminars.college.harvard.edu, the application instructions and the list of the wonderful seminars. I will note that their application portal is slightly different from a lot of the classes. So you can actually begin applying for those seminars as early as August 2nd. That's actually when the application opens for freshman seminars. So I want to draw your attention to that. And then a few questions came in about a little bit more detail about what course preview period is actually like. And I'll again say a little bit, and then Zoya and Marley, if from your experience with over this past year, the course preview period that had largely virtual components or all virtual components, what that was like for you. One of the questions that's come in is, obviously for many of you, you're traveling across the country or across the world to get to campus. And frankly, at the same time as you're probably considering some courses and thinking about what you want your first semester to be like. So what will that experience be like to choose courses then? And my suggestion, and I think Zoya and Marley can chime in on this about the student experience, but individual courses will make the decisions, the instructors will make the decisions about whether to have synchronous components of course preview period, but many will rely on their course website. They might record a video where they give an overview of the class and name the goals that they want the students to have coming in, or they want students to achieve having taken the course. Or they might have a Q&A period. They might open up kind of office hours, so time that's dedicated for students to come in and chat, maybe over Zoom. They might have something live, but certainly they will have things on their Canvas website, the course website, which is on the platform Canvas. So even if you are traveling and there's a course that the professor has a live presentation at the exact moment you're playing boards or at the moment you're in the car driving across the country, you will absolutely have the space and time to get your questions answered about the class, to reach out to the instructor or to use this course syllabus or the course website to get those questions answered. Absolutely. Marley or Zoya, is there anything you might say a little bit about the course preview period from the student perspective?
I can jump in here. So I would just first second everything that Brooks has said. This virtual course preview period is actually really, really helpful because yes, when we were in person, it was great, but here everything is at the click of a button and you can just go to the Canvas site or go to the course website and you can get in contact with the instructors. I would just encourage everyone, please do not hesitate to reach out to course instructors. They have their contact information there for a reason. They would really love to hear from you, love to hear about your interest in the course and all of that good stuff. So that would be my advice.
Great, thanks, Marley. So another question that came in was around registering for classes at schools outside of Harvard College. So Harvard College is situated in the Faculty of Arts and Sciences. You may hear this referred to as the FAS. And the classes that undergraduates take are typically and almost exclusively in the FAS, so the Faculty of Arts and Sciences. It is to take a course at a school outside of the Faculty of Arts and Sciences, it might be another professional school at Harvard. Zoya mentioned earlier the Harvard Graduate School of Education, or the Harvard Kennedy School, or any of our other professional schools. That's a process called cross-registration, meaning registering at a different school. It's also the process a student might do to enroll in a course at, say, MIT, another area university. That is not something that first-year students are ordinarily permitted to do. And the main reason here is that we want students to get settled into the Harvard College experience. This is the undergraduate experience. It's certainly not something that first semester students are going to do. But Zoya has, in her undergraduate experience, actually is cross-registered. And so Zoya, I wonder if you might say a word about how you thought about the process, of course, of cross-registering and how it made sense for you in your academic journey down the road.
Yeah, definitely. So I have cross-registered at the Graduate School of Education because I am getting an ed secondary. And so a lot of the courses that count for secondary credit are from the Graduate School of Education. And they had these incredible course titles. And they fit with my schedule. So I realized that I really, really want to take these courses. So I reached out to the professors and asked for permission to enroll in their courses. And then you fill out a form, and the form basically allows you to receive credit for that course. And then one thing that is usually consistent across concentrations and secondaries is that you have a limit of 8 credits, which is usually 2 4-credit courses that you can take from another school to count for concentration or secondary credit. So when I was thinking about registering at the Graduate School of Education, it was kind of like you had to be super selective about what you wanted to use those 8 credits to fulfill, because once you use them, you use them. So I was really, really happy that I got into those courses, that I was able to take them. And they were a really incredible experience where the people at the ed school were really diverse ages and experiences. So that was really neat. And I've also known friends that have cross-registered at MIT and some of the other Harvard schools. And it's usually something that you have to put a lot of thought into, and is usually, like Brooke said, something you save for your later years once you've kind of explored a lot of the college courses.
Thanks, Zoya. 2 other questions that we wanted to address that have come up. So in the portion of discussing My.Harvard, we made references to advising holds. And one such advising hold could be an immunization hold. So we do want to encourage students to ensure that, again, checking your My.Harvard account to see if you have any holds, immunization, advising, some might be related to financials. Just know course registration hold will be placed on students who submit their immunization records late. So again, we encourage you to keep up with that. You can find more information through the Harvard University Health Services website, as well as more information that will be coming via email to you through the course of the summer. Another question that has come up is the basics of joint concentration, which I'll very briefly touch on. So at Harvard, students have the opportunity to concentrate or major in one particular area. However, Harvard does not offer double concentrations or double majors. Instead, Every year, students find ways to meld their interests by pursuing a joint concentration, which helps meld together or combine two fields. Again, not a double major, but intentionally bringing in two different areas of study into one. These fields combine must be undergraduate concentrations in their own right, if that makes sense at Harvard. So it has to be pre-existing concentrations that exist. And once you discern if there's an opportunity for a joint conversation, you will have lots of good conversations with advising contacts within those disciplines to ensure that they do come together in a way that is meaningful for your academic journey. As you come in as incoming first years, though, what we really want to underscore is the sense of exploring and looking at the multitude of fields that exist at Harvard to see where your academic journey may lie. And there are many resources that exist on the Advising Programs website that we encourage you to check out to see what those fields of study may be. But again, to address sort of the definition, if you will, of the joint concentration, it's a way of melding two fields together, but not a double major.
So a couple other questions that have come in. I really like there are a few questions around this topic that I really like engaging with, which is how do you decide how many courses to consider? There are quite literally thousands of classes that you might take in your first year. And yet, as we've told you, you're only going to take 4. So how on earth do you narrow it down from literally a couple thousand to 4? And what's the space where students might typically operate in narrowing down those couple thousand to the 4 courses you'll take? I have some thoughts on this, which I always share with incoming students and my advisees around finding what's that almost certainly there will be some class that later you hear about and you think, boy, I would have really enjoyed that class. And that is absolutely okay. Your goal is not to find the perfect schedule for the absolute perfect schedule in your first semester. Your goal is to find classes that you really enjoy, that fit with your goals, and that set you up for next semester and beyond. That is likely to be a number much smaller than 2,000, but probably bigger than just 4. And so Zoya and Marley, I wonder if you might say a word about what your advice is around, generally speaking, how many classes students might consider when they're thinking about exploring in My.Harvard or Syllabus Explorer.
I can jump in first. So yes, this is a great question. Sometimes when you look at the course catalog as a PDF version, it can be very overwhelming. But my advice, or how I went about this my first semester, was that I did look at the course catalog as a PDF, and I just went and said, do any of these titles stand out to me? Am I really interested in any of them? But then I also just decided, and I really reflected, and I said, well, what kinds of classes, what sorts of requirements do I want to fulfill, and then worked within that. Another thing that I just wanted to mention is that, so I'm from a really small high school, and so I never had a class of bigger than maybe 15 kids. And so it was really important to me as a first year to really explore, and part of that exploration for me meant exploring different types of classes. So I made sure that I really wanted to take a freshman seminar because I wanted a discussion based. So that's something that I looked into. I really wanted to take a larger lecture course. So then I took a larger lecture, big introductory course in the Gov department. So that's kind of how I went about thinking, how am I going to take all of these classes and narrow it down? But that's kind of how I went about it. If Zoya, you'd like to share how you went, that would be awesome.
So one of the things that I've kind of considered over the semesters to understand how many courses I need to consider is figuring out how many of them are capped. Because if they're not capped and I really want to take it, then I don't need to find a replacement or a backup for that course. But one semester I was interested in taking 2 or 3 courses, all capped at 12. So you can't really depend on those classes in those situations. So it's good to have backups, and you can shop however many classes you want, which is really nice. The thing about course registration is it's really easy to jump from class to class and see what's offered and see how the course is structured, who is the course staff, and answer questions like that. And it's also really nice because all of these classes are open to you. So you can shop one, you can look at it, but you're not obligated to take it. So it's really nice to use this as an exploration period and kind of note down classes that you might be interested in taking later. You don't have to just look at courses for this semester. You can also keep them in your hat for later. And so that's kind of how I went about it, balancing how many I had to take and then making sure I found enough courses that could serve as backups in case I didn't get some of the lotteries. But it's definitely a ton of exploration you have to do, and there's tons of courses, which makes it really, really fun.
I've seen a couple of questions. I'll just try to respond to these quickly about do freshman seminars count as one of the 4 courses that you might take? And yes, they absolutely do. They are real courses engaging in real material. The fact that they're not letter graded often, I think, makes students think that they may not be as rigorous, but often they are just as rigorous as other courses the student might take. I think Marley's point about the nature of the course, the size of the course, and the way a student engages in the material actually often is really important to a student's experience. And so when I tell my advisees about taking a freshman seminar, one of the things I say is that's the class you want to make sure you're keeping up with the work in, for sure, because you're participating and your contributions to the course make other students' experience so much more valuable as well. Around the freshman seminar, I'll actually will post again or post in the for you all the link to the freshman seminar application process, so you can see the timeline there. That process is separate from the from many of the other course preview experiences, and the reason is that the faculty members themselves are the ones who are actually choosing the students in their in the seminar, and so that's slightly different. So there is a ranking process. When you apply for a freshman seminar, you will rank your choices, and so that's something that is detailed in the application, the freshman seminar application. I think we may have managed to try to respond. We've done our best to respond to the questions folks have asked, and I'll just share maybe one kind of last concluding thought here on how you might approach the next few weeks. If I were in your shoes, what I would do and what I would encourage you to do is to find that sweet spot between spending a little bit of time exploring courses and not worrying too much about exactly those courses right now. That you have some time between now and the in-course preview period to explore, to, as Zoya showed you, to type a phrase or a subject that you've always had an interest in into Syllabus Explorer and just see what pops up. Or as Marley demonstrated, to go into My.Harvard and to search for classes that you might have a particular interest in and just get a feel for what it's like to look at these courses. All that will prepare you for your conversations with your advisor, with your academic advisor and your advising network. I also would encourage you to look at the freshman seminars and to begin identifying ones to which you might want to apply. If I were you, and if I were in your shoes about thinking about what I might want to take this semester, I would also look at the Advising Programs Office website, advising.college.harvard.edu, and take a look at some of the course decision trees that just give you a little bit of a direction of where you might go, or the 50 concentrations and some ideas for gateway courses, and see what captures your interest. If you're anything like most students coming into Harvard College, the 50 concentrations represent fields that you have not had the chance to explore yet. And so this is a chance to begin that exploration. You absolutely have time between now and the course registration deadline, but we really encourage you to make use of that time at your own pace, at your own speed, what feels right for you, but to be prepared for those conversations with your advisors and to be prepared for course preview period when it arrives. That guide that I posted, that Madhavi mentioned, college.harvard.edu/guide/course preview period, that's something that actually just launched today. So we encourage you to take a look and to be in touch with questions. We also want to publicize our next 2 webinars. Next week is the one about your placement exam results and how to incorporate those into your course selection decisions, as well as our small group advising sessions. So these are sessions where folks from the Advising Programs Office will meet with first-year students and one of our peer advising fellows, someone like Zoya or Marley, and answer questions and try to respond to where you are right now in your course selection decisions. These are resources that are available for you, but the guiding takeaway here is that these are for you. These are to help you make the decisions that are right for you about what you want out of your undergraduate experience. You're absolutely taking those steps right now by coming to this webinar. We've so enjoyed having you here to talk about course selection and how to use some of our great resources. And we honestly can't wait to have you on campus in the fall. So thank you so much and have a great rest of the day.